My name is Carolyn Berjowski, and today I need to share with you an alarming video recently leaked by a whistleblower. As many of you might recall, at a Waterloo Region District School Board meeting in January 2022, I raised concerns about an elementary school library book that made light of the medical consequences of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones given to minors. In response, the school board ejected me from the meeting, suspended me from school, and defamed me publicly. I have since launched 2 lawsuits against the school board, which are currently moving through the courts. Puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones given to minors cause permanent infertility. Children are unable to fully understand and consent to these consequences. This has now been decisively proven by the leaked internal files from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. WPATH sets the world standard for gender care that is followed by gender clinics, medical associations, and medical health practitioners in the United States, Canada, and beyond. In the leaked files, leading gender practitioners openly admit that children, and many of their parents, do not understand the permanent negative effects that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones will have on their bodies, including sterilization, loss of sexual function, loss of bone density, and even liver tumors. Watch this clip where leading Canadian endocrinologist Dr. Metzger admits that children are not developmentally mature enough to understand the loss of their own fertility, nor are they likely to subject themselves to the invasive medical procedures required to preserve their fertility for the future. In other words, they admit that children cannot consent to puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones.
I was just going to say, it's always a good theory that you talk about fertility preservation with a 14-year-old, but I know I'm talking to a blank wall. And the same would happen for a cisgender kid, right? They'd be like, ew, kids, babies, gross. Or the usual stock answer is, I'm going to adopt. I'm just going to adopt. And then you ask them, well, what does that involve? Like, how much does it cost? Oh, I thought you just went to the orphanage and they gave you a baby. No, it's not quite like that. Some of the Dutch researchers gave some data about young adults who had transitioned and reproductive regret. And it's there. And I don't think any of that surprises us. I think now that I follow a lot of kids into their mid-20s, I'm always like, oh, the dog isn't doing it for you, right? Yeah, they're like, no, I just found this, wonderful partner and now we're kids and da-da-da. So I think, it doesn't surprise me, but I don't know still what to do for the 14-year-old. So I think when we're doing informed consent, I know that that's still a big lacuna of that we do it. We try to talk about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really, really, really talk about it in a serious way. That's always bothered me, but we still want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
And I appreciate that much less with a 9, 10, or 11-year-old who's starting puberty suppression. And like Ren said, if they continue on, then and I mean, it's like developmentally not in their space to be able to have to think about that, and it shouldn't be, right? And so I think it is a real growing edge in our field to kind of figure out how we can approach that. I'm definitely a little stumped on it.
If youth are interested in preserving fertility, then the options for doing that, depending on age and stage of development, also can be, from a medical standpoint, may or may not be possible, but then from a financial standpoint also may or may not be possible. And that's another complexity. It adds another layer of complexity to these discussions as well. And that's at any age, I guess.
And from a social and sexual standpoint, right? In some ways, the stuff that you need to do to be able to preserve your fertility might be beyond kind of where a youth is at in terms of their sexual development, and yet that's kind of what's needing to happen. And
These gender clinicians also admit that some of their former patients, who are now in their 20s and 30s, regret these medical procedures and the loss of their ability to have children. Regardless, this lucrative medical industry continues to provide non-consentable medical procedures, claiming that it makes young people happier in the short term, even though they might think differently about it later in life. This prioritization of the immediate or long-term consequences is why parents don't usually let children make life-altering decisions. Yet so many parents have been coerced into suppressing their instincts and allowing these treatments for their children. Thankfully, these treatments are being banned for minors in a growing list of countries, including Sweden, Finland, Belgium, the UK, and now the province of Alberta in Canada. I'll end with a short clip of journalist Michael Shellenberger, who published the WPATH Files. You can find links to the full video and report below. Please watch and share widely. Thank you.
This all has to be stopped. 1 week after we released the WPATH Files, Britain's National Health Service came out and finally banned puberty blockers in all of its clinics. The Times of London then came out the next day. This is a center-left newspaper. They called this quack medicine in the lead editorial. This is absolutely bonkers and has to be stopped. This is maybe the greatest medical mistreatment scandal of the last, 100 years, 200 years.